Welcome to the club, 'cause you're that kind of nerd.
Hello, and welcome to the club that is That Kind of Nerd, a show.
Yes, it is. I can confirm it is indeed a show.
Okay, I just wanted to see what your reaction was. It is a show where we talk about what we're passionate about, and I, because the universe has been cosmically corrected, get to judge what these fine gentlemen want to talk about or how they talk about it. So I am joined today by my competitors, CJ Mellon and Joshua Burns.
What up?
Hello.
And today I'm excited for today's episode. Just because I'm hosting, things have been corrected. But before we jump in, wanted to talk to you guys about anything interesting happened over the past week in your nerdy lives.
More tattoos.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Continuing the same sleeve?
Yeah, the dragon on the kind of bicep tricep of my left arm.
Mm.
It's fierce.
Love the step tattoos. Makes all the things good, right? Speaking of dragons, I watched The House of Dragon last week.
Oh.
Me too.
You did, Josh. Okay. I know CJ didn't because CJ is.
I abstain.
This isn't my topic for this week, but I did just want to get a quick primer. Josh, what were your thoughts? As a huge fan of GOT.
I actually had, I was texting about this with Craig on Monday, and I basically my first reaction was, this is good setup. Like I like what I see from episode 1. It was, mostly pleasant with some violence for good measure, right? And the violence was as brutal as you'd expect. The thing that I really like about it is basically they're saying, you don't know anything about this right now. Like they made it very clear. This is, 200 years before Daenerys Targaryen.
Yeah, they have a whole little paragraph.
Super, super clear. You have no idea what's going on here. This is 100 years into the Targaryens' rule. It's been peaceful for 60 years, which also should tell you, like, oh, all right, well, that's why, Game of Thrones was such a shit show. Like, Robert Baratheon had only been on the throne for a few years, and it took 40 years for the Targaryens to really achieve a peaceful 7 kingdoms, and that makes sense. So, like, I'm okay. They've done a good job introducing the characters and setting up the story of the House of Targaryen, and we'll see what happens with kind of everybody else as it develops. I mean, you'd have to. The key here is, like, we know that the Targaryens continued to rule for another 2 centuries, so not a whole lot of
That just
throne changing hands,
get like 20
right?
seasons out of this show, right? Like,
that's right. And gimme it all. I thought Matt Smith was good. I thought that the cast in general, I like. Like, I don't have any issues at this point, and because it's a story we don't know anything about, I think it's great.
I have issues. I'm on the fence.
I don't see how.
I'm very much on the fence. I watched that first episode and I was not. I'm going to give it a couple more, obviously. My main thing with this first episode is that, to your point, it was a setup episode that I did not need over an hour of setup. In fact, I knew exactly what this show was going to be about from a 3-minute trailer, so I did not need an hour to tell me what I already knew from a 3-minute trailer that I had.
You don't know any of the characters.
I don't need to know any of the characters.
Of course you need to know the characters.
Wait.
Yeah.
You don't need to know any of the characters?
You don't know any of them. All you know is that they're Targaryens.
Listen, my point is you develop characters over season longs, not over an hour-long episode.
All they did was introduce the Targaryens.
And they did a lot more planting the seed of things that...
Here's a Stark. Here's a Hightower.
Yeah.
Here's a Tyrell.
It was like
this
the
guy's from
ex-boyfriend.
Dorne.
It was like the ex-boyfriend coming to me being like, "Oh my gosh, remember me?
I already super hate your perspective.
Even like right down to the
super
theme song.
fucking hate it. I
right
super
down to
hate
the
it.
theme song. They're like, "Hey, remember Game of Thrones? We'll throw in this riff from Game of Thrones."
Nope,
Hey, the
I
main
hate it.
character is doing the worst impersonation of Dany Targaryen. Hey, remember the Starks? Hey,
You're
remember this
viewing
house? Hey,
everything
remember this?
through a Game
on.
of Thrones lens, and you can't.
This is how I would sound if I
But
watched
that's
this. This is
how
great.
they want me to view it.
No,
That is
they don't.
Yes,
they
do.
want you to look at it with new eyes.
They absolutely
did
want
they
me to
put a
view it as
Lest
Game of
I
Thrones
gouge out
fan.
your eyes and give you new eyes and say, now you can see it because you're not using your stupid biased eyes.
Josh, they want me to view this as a Game of Thrones fan. This show is made for Game of Thrones fans. You can sit there and talk about the paragraph all you want. That paragraph at the beginning is essentially just saying, hey, don't try to, predict where this is going because we're 200 years in the future.
It's saying you don't know anything about this because it's 200 years until the stuff that you know.
But they're
so
already,
hey, look at it like it's different.
But then I don't need the glory shot of House Lannister. I don't need the glory shot of, hey, someone from Winterfell. Like, you then undo everything that paragraph does by trying to invoke Game of Thrones right down to the damn theme song having Game of Thrones touches in it. You try to
you're
invoke,
saying, look, it's the same kingdom, but this is a
they're
different
trying to
story.
invoke the positive feelings I have.
Let's not fight too much about. No, I'm just saying.
Listen.
It's only the first episode.
Why?
It's only in the first episode, and like I said,
why are you going hard on it?
Because I'm already skeptical, and there's already things in the show that I see coming out over a season or two that I don't know how I'm going to feel about it if it goes the way I think it's going to go. I'm not going to say anything right now because it's a prediction, but I'm already a little worried about how this show is going to affect the main Game of Thrones show. Now, Josh, completely respect your opinion. I'm going to give you 5 points for having an opinion. So congratulations, Josh. But I'm going to subtract 5 points for it being the wrong opinion. So,
yep. If you weren't wearing a baby as a fashion accessory, I'd throw something at you.
And he's the cutest little kid ever. So you can't.
Well, I stipulated, right? And because it's your baby, clearly it's the cutest baby ever. I understand. But you are wearing him as a fashion accessory, and that accessory, if I threw something, would become a shield through no fault of your own.
Indeed, yes, and we don't want that. But anyway, now that I got Josh getting riled up, let's talk about our topics. So I will go ahead and let's flip a coin. Let's choose chaos and let's flip a coin to see who goes first. Josh, do you want to be heads or tails?
Always tails.
Always blue. Always blue.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Tails.
All right. Siri says it's tails. So Josh, you get to go first.
Awesome. I have only one thing I want to talk about, but before I do talk about that thing, I want to say Apple announced September 7th event. Yay. New iPhone.
Isn't that normally the norm?
It is, but I'm saying it because I got the email the other day and I'm super excited about it. And
they announced
this year's going to be weird, man. This year's going to be really weird.
This year might not. It might be Josh isn't getting an iPhone again, right? I didn't get the iPhone 12.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get the 13?
I got 13 Pro Max. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it was significantly different than the 11 Pro Max that I had, right? So I upgraded. And if the 14 Pro Max is significantly better than the 13 Pro Max, I will likely do that, and we'll see. But I just I'm excited about it, and we should see it in just about a month or so. My topic, however, is an article that I found whilst flipping boards, and
excellent. Love flipping boards.
It is about our favorite topic. It is not about moviepass, and it won't be about moviepass.
Josh,
ever.
plus 2 points for pointing out the ridiculousness of moviepass. Thank you.
Yeah, it'll never.
I
be
would like
about
you
that.
to know we had 3 listeners send me moviepass stuff going. Did you see this? Yes, I saw it. All of you who are sending it to me, yes, I saw it. Hard pass.
It is that DC has now said officially, we know we need to be more like Marvel. And they've even said, basically, we think that it probably should be Jeff Johns, but we're not going to make it Jeff Johns anyway.
Fucking executives in a suit looking at spreadsheets. That's all they do.
So they were like, there was a guy, he was a producer, and he was he was at one point working on a George Miller directed Justice League thing. I don't know if you guys know, it was 13 years ago. He was producing it. It never got made, but we still think probably he's the right guy to replace Hamada. And so, they're really going hard on Dan Lin, and still not Jeff Johns, because they think that Dan Lin could be the Kevin Feige, even though he has nothing to do with comic books at all, and he's a producer. And I went, oh man, DC, you were so close, and then you fucked it up again. Now they haven't officially named anybody, obviously, but they're like, we really clearly like what Marvel's done. It makes total sense to us now in hindsight. And we were even looking at Kevin Feige at one point. But he did the Marvel thing. And we've seen some great success with guys like Jeff Johns and Greg Berlanti. So we're not going to choose either of them. We're going to go with this guy.
Fuck him. Why apply logic though?
And I just went, I'm reading. I'm like, oh, they said Jeff Johns, they said Greg Berlanti, and then they said somebody else who had a failed project. Yep, this checks out. It's a good move, guys.
I'm looking them up on the Hollywood Reporter, right? I'm sorry. Yeah, the Hollywood Reporter. He was the producer
plus
behind...
1 point for pointing out the ridiculousness. Continue.
He is the producer behind the Lego movie, Godzilla vs. Kong, and then the upcoming Avatar: The Last Airbender series. the new Netflix and live action one that looks pretty good.
I know.
But
in
wow,
all fairness, he is also the producer of both Sherlock Holmes movies starring Robert Downey Jr. He was a
look. If that brings Guy Ritchie to the DCU, I think it'd be a huge mistake, but an entertaining one.
I mean, anything is good at this point, right? Unaccompanied minors.
Although, what if Guy Ritchie wrote and directed like a Vandal Savage, just a Vandal Savage movie?
What? See that's a really good point. What hero would Guy Ritchie do a good DC film about?
Green Arrow. He already did Robin Hood, right? We just give him that. Oh, he did King Arthur.
He did King Arthur. Minus 1 point for not knowing your freaking director's dipshit.
Which was amazing.
Wow, that was a very harsh deduction, Brian.
Makes me angry that you don't know that. Minus 1 point.
I'm seriously. I'm looking at this guy's IMDb list for producers, and I listen. I get it. Until you produce something big, you're not doing a whole bunch. But like the Frequency TV show,
Sherlock Holmes.
He did Lethal Weapon, Josh. He was an executive producer on Lethal Weapon.
I'm fine. EPs don't actually have anything to do with anything. To answer your question very directly, Brian, the answer is Guy Ritchie would be perfect for Constantine.
You're absolutely right.
So, however, Netflix is already kind of doing Constantine. So, I don't know how that would work, right? Because there wouldn't be any crossover.
Well, considering
with Sandman,
that
although
Warner Brothers is doing the Flash and we're doing the Flash and it's on the CW, like the Flash will. If
you haven't yet watched Sandman, Clara,
I'm looking forward.
The Impossible Girl is a decent Constantine.
I am looking forward to it. Plus 1 point for mentioning Constantine, Josh. CJ, you've got some ground to make up, so you better say something real.
I see how this episode is going to go. By the way, this is retribution for the cast. Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm going to end with negative points.
So listen. I mean, as far as like producers go, right? And like again, I'm not competing, so I don't want to take up all the airtime. He has some good stuff behind him. He did It and It Chapter 2, which I love,
yep.
right?
Yep.
He did both Sherlock Holmes movies. He was a producer on the Lego Batman movie. He was a producer on both Lego movies. So I mean,
Inspector Gadget.
He's got some good stuff. He's got some shit. Let's face. I mean, and you know what? Whatever you all want to say, I really enjoy Godzilla vs. Kong.
So did I. Yeah. Nope. For the record, absolutely. So did
Sometimes I just want to watch a giant dragon beat up a giant monkey. That is all I'm looking for. You know, so like he's got some good stuff to him.
All of these things that you're saying are 100% accurate.
Right.
All of these things are good.
And
right?
what I
But
was going to say is
he didn't create a Sherlock Holmes universe.
I think to your point, what qualifies this guy as a DC
Nothing.
to head up DCEU?
Lego Batman. That's it.
No, the Lego movie.
He did
also
the
did Lego Batman
movies too. Which
Okay, fine.
Okay, really, but how steeped in DC mythology is the Lego Batman movie?
Right.
It's not.
Put it
right?
in air quotes. That's the only thing. That's the only thing that's DC on his resume.
So, I mean, yeah. I mean, and the problem is, Josh, Jeff Johns has a lot of controversy around him because he went down with Joss Whedon, and I think it would have been a big mistake for us to say, okay, this is guy. So maybe this is the guy who is going to work with the guy who's going to do the thing. Who knows, right?
And that might be it, right? We know that producers really need to be more like a diplomatic liaison than anything else. However, they need to have, I think, if they're going to head up a major project like this, some sort of vision that is more than just bringing people together. And that's like, look, the CW crossovers are really some of the best cohesive television story arcs I've ever watched.
Absolutely.
And that is difficult to pull off. And Berlanti did it perfectly. Did he do it with other producers and directors and writers? Absolutely. But it was his vision that was executed. And it was done. I mean, how many crossovers have they done now? 4?
They did at least 4 crossovers from the inception of Arrow.
And Crisis on Infinite Earths was
really complicated and really good.
Incredibly complicated.
And it included 5 different series, right?
It was so compelling. It was really, really outstanding. And like, in a lot of ways, in my opinion, like on par with Marvel, what Marvel did. Not same scale. I'm not comparing it scale wise, but like in terms of story, on par.
Yeah. Absolutely. You give that story a big budget. That's a pretty damn good movie.
Big budget and huge names, you'd have an amazing.
I would argue.
What?
You'll get your chance to speak in a second. I would argue even more so, as much as I did enjoy Crisis on Infinite Earths, I enjoyed, and I forget what they called it, the crossover with the evil Justice League.
Oh.
Way more. And I think that would work as a film too, to your point, you know. It was a 2.5-hour crossover event. Give me a big budget. Give me all the special effects in the world. Give me the star power. That's fantastic. I completely agree with you. If not Jeff Johns, then Greg Berlanti. And let's face it, we're winding down the Berlantiverse. It's over.
Was it the Elseworlds or Invasion?
It's not Invasion. Invasion is with the Dominator, so it must be Elseworlds. CJ, you wanted to say something and try to accrue some points here. Go ahead.
Not trying to get points at this point. I know that's a use clause. So the big goal
Plus 1
for
point
this,
for recognizing your position, CJ.
for the big thing for this, right? If you're going to be the helm of the DCEU, is you need to attract talent. And when we look at that, I don't think necessarily that's an actor problem, right? I think you can get good actors. I think if you look at the state of Warner Brothers right now, you need to get good directors and good creatives, right? And I'm looking at Dan Lin's resume, and I love Berlanti also, right? The question is, who can really kind of come to a director and say, sell me a vision that fits within this box, but still lets you do something? And that's going to be the toughest thing, because, I mean, even if you look at Chris Nolan, who had like the best relationship with Warner Brothers, he just left for Universal, right? So like, it's hard right now, especially with all the chaos and canceling movies, to keep, or get, I should say, attract good talent to come do a Warner Brothers DC movie, right? That's going to attract directors with a point of view that can actually make something good, right? Patty Jenkins was a good find. Listen, Zack Snyder had a point of view. I don't agree with the point of view, but he had a point of view, so I'll take it. But if you look at Aquaman, and even if you want to compare this to, Marvel, we had about 2 or 3 directors for Thor before we got, Taika and actually got a point of view out of that character. This is going to be hard. And I don't know if looking at his resume, that tells me, yes, this is the guy who's going to help get the talent to have a direction, to have a clear point of view, and get a director that can actually execute on that. It's a tough job for anybody who takes this over, because Warner Brothers itself and DC itself is not going to be the selling point. It's going to have to be who's the helm, who's the guy that you answer to. So whoever takes this job, freaking tough luck, man. It's going to be hard. So
TJ,
we'll
very
see.
strong, well-spoken point, +1 for the point, but I do think it's half the story here, right? I think you're absolutely right. I need to be able to attract talent that's going to be able to have a vision for these movies, right, individually. But what Kevin Feige does, because he has last say on all the casting as well, he's able to recognize talent. It's not just about who's big right now. And that's been the problem right now, right? Like, I think the most unsung quote unquote cast that we have in the DCEU right now was probably, maybe Gal Gadot, but she was already pretty big from the Fast Furious franchise, right?
No. Gal was not a huge...
Okay, so probably...
This is what made her a star.
Probably her, right? But other than that, like, you've got, like, big names. Momoa was a big name. He had Game of Thrones before
Huge
Aquaman,
name.
right? Like, he was known. Ben Affleck is known.
It is known.
Like,
yes.
No,
huge
name.
Jesse Eisenberg, known, right? Like, and I think part of the problem is we're just trying to attach flashiness to without substance, right? Jesse Eisenberg, flashy name, did not bring anything to Lex Luthor. Should not have been in that role.
You know,
Had
I don't
no place to be in
understand
that role.
why we wouldn't, look, you give me the helm, right? And I'm bringing in Berlanti and I'm saying, listen, you know what's happened a lot recently? Kevin Smith has slammed us. You should get Kevin Smith. Bring Kevin Smith with you.
Just to be a consultant or a writer?
I would love
A
to see
writer
Kevin
and
Smith.
a director, creative director.
Okay, I was gonna say I would not give him a feature to direct on the DC.
He
that
doesn't
sounds
want
mean.
it. If
right?
you ever, no. If you
No,
ever
but
listen to him,
but you bring him in to help write and
Right,
to be the
yes,
creative
correct.
director.
absolutely.
Fuck, they give this job to Kevin
Josh-
Smith.
Josh,
No,
I'm
you can't
just
give it to
kidding.
Kevin Smith.
+1 point for A, mentioning Kevin Smith, because I do love him, and B, it's a great idea, right? Forget about the fact that like he has definitely been harsh.
How much
in
would the
past.
fans love Warner Brothers for going, you know what, this guy slammed us. We should trust him a little bit with the vision.
You give him first pass at every script. You give him the outline. You say, Kevin Smith writes the outline, says, hey, this is where your universe should go. And he actually, so I don't know how he's laid out plans. And I don't know if you guys have listened to any of his podcasts. I do. And on a recent episode of his podcast, Fat Man Beyond, he was asked the same question I kind of asked you guys a couple weeks ago, right? Like, hey, you're given the universe, what do you do? And first and foremost, he's been very vocal. He's like, I don't want it. He's like, I don't want it because I enjoy way more being a fan than being that involved in the creative process. But he did say, listen, you've got to start from square one. You've got to reboot, and you got to start with Superman, and you got to do a good Superman film. And, from there, you kind of branch out. And I think that's a strong plan. So here's what you do, to Josh's point, right? Kevin Smith, write us an outline. We want the next 2.5 years of films. What should they look like? Go. Have him write the outline. You give that outline to a bunch of screenwriters. You say, give us a first draft. You run that first draft past Kevin Smith, and he says, you're on the right track, or no, you need to change all of this. And then you go from there. I think that's an absolutely wonderful, spectacular idea. I already gave you a point for it, Josh, but yeah.
That's wonderful, and Warner Brothers will not do that because Warner Brothers, right?
Well, we can hope. Right?
I would love to hope, but history has taught me that Warner Brothers is not to be trusted with a wonderful idea. So,
listen, CJ, dare to dream. That's all I have to say. But I mean, you're right. You're right, and you'll get +1 for your rightness.
I'm gonna bring the Blum brothers onto this and be like, all right, now you guys make the DCEU. We got Blumhouse DC.
Listen, I'm down for anything at this point. The fact is that things needed to change. They are changing. Everybody is very unhappy with some changes, including us, right? But once all the dust settles and this is all cleared up and we have the people in places that we need to put in, we'll see. We'll see but I will say this, and this is just a personal pet peeve of mine. If we're going to move forward in any sort of successful route, that Flash movie has got to go. It just can't. It's got to go.
Absolutely, we need
but,
to. They already pushed back Shazam, and they pushed back Warner. They pushed back Aquaman already, right? They just pushed those movies back. Like, I think they're realizing that, well, we may have some more tax write-offs in our near future.
I'm curious at the reason, and they were very ambiguous as they always
Super
are.
vague about it. Yeah.
I'm curious if the reason is we're going to try and do a couple reshoots to kind of make this fit into a better plan. Who knows? But Josh, I think that was a wonderful discussion. Do you have any other points that you want to lay down before we move on?
No, listen, Warner Brothers, both, I am available on a contract basis, but I also believe that, you'd be getting a great value just contracting that kind of nerd.
There you go.
To help you out with this.
Perfect.
We're open to it.
I'm absolutely open to it. Cool. Alrighty. Well, you know what? I'm going to present a challenge to this podcast next week. I'm going to present a challenge that says none of us can bring up DC next episode.
I got to tell you, I can't agree to that because we don't know if they're going to step on their dick this week.
I didn't know that the horse knew how to use the elevator.
Literally every
That is DC this week. I didn't know he could do that.
I always I flip boards as well, Josh, and I'm always flipping boards and saying I'm going to find something to talk about that has nothing to do with Warner Brothers or DC. And then to your point, Josh, they step on themselves. And I'm like, well, I have to. Here we go.
Yeah. I listen, if they don't make a major blunder, 100%. Yep. I won't bring them up.
Excellent. All right, CJ, what do you bring to the table to be judged accordingly?
I do have a topic. I do want to do a quick bit of follow-up that reminded me of something. And I think it's a conversation I had with Josh where we were talking about movies and their budgeting and how things are successful. And I definitely defer to you being the expert, because what I said was you take the budget of the movie and then like you doubled it and then that was your advertising budget, which is wrong, right? And I was reminded
it's wrong, but I
was reminded of a great interview by Matt Damon of Hot Ones, where he talked to a studio executive who explained that if a movie had a $25 million budget, he would have to put that much money into print advertising and marketing. So the budget is now $50 million. So back to Josh's point of him being right even more, Matt Damon, Josh, gave you the hardcore facts that you indeed were correct and I was an idiot. So I wanted to make sure that I came with receipts and said, yep, you were right and I was wrong. So you can have
CJ
that.
+1 for saying those words that I always love to hear. I am an idiot.
All right, so here's what I did, and Brian, you didn't. I'm not going to hold it against him. I'm just saying you didn't ask me what I did this nerdy weekend, but that's okay.
I asked both of you,
and Josh took it around as Josh does because he had a better weekend than I did. Because I sat there, I was like, I moved everything over to a new Synology server, and I made sure that everything worked.
I went to see Top Gun Maverick for the 18th time.
I did see Top Gun last night.
I saw a mediocre movie once again.
Oh, how dare you! Last night I went to the drive-in movie theater for the last time of the season, and I did see. I saw Minions: The Rise of Gru, which was a fucking snorefest.
It's mignon.
And then I saw Top Gun Maverick 4, and I counted now, Brian, the 5th time since it's come out. And I put the 4K version on the server. I was very happy. Anyway. But the other thing I did after I did all that was I need to test my server, and I need to make sure that everything's working because I give it to these other two nerds so they can watch movies, right? They can watch my collection of movies, and when things fall off of trucks, they can watch it too. And I was like, okay, I'm going to press the random button on Plex.
Dangerous.
I'm going to watch whatever movie comes just to see
Feeling scandalous.
What a kick up.
Does the server work? And it served me the movie Fighting with My Family.
Love it.
Right? It is a 2019 movie starring Florence Pugh. I think it was the first thing I've seen Florence Pugh in. It's got Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Vince Vaughn, Leah Henney, Nick Frost. Great talent in this movie. And I watched the whole damn thing. I was just trying to test, would you serve me a movie? And I was like, well, you have my fucking attention. And
well, you've seen that before.
I love
it.
this
Yeah, we
movie.
spent like an hour talking about it on the podcast.
This was on. Yeah, this was one of this was a Patreon movie that I gushed about.
Loved it.
But I was looking at it and I did a little more research to it, and its budget was $11 million. Right, the opening weekend gross for this movie in the U.S. and Canada was $138,000.
Well, anytime you put a rock in a movie, you're guaranteed some money eventually.
Right. It eventually got there worldwide, but it took a very long time. This had a long curve to it.
Right.
Right.
And because it's an underrated movie, right?
Because you can't make a biopic about Paige and be like, everybody's going to
want to
this.
see it.
Nobody
I had no
knows.
interest in seeing it, but I saw it, and then I was like, I
Right.
like wrestling, or do I just really like this character? I don't know what's happening here.
You like Florence
But
Pugh.
it was before
wonderful.
before we knew how wonderful Florence Pugh was, right? But I remember leaving that movie going, I want to watch wrestling. What? this is odd to me. But it reminded me, it's such an underrated movie, and it's a really good one. And I'm thinking about the last 5 years, and I'm thinking of movies like Yesterday and Fighting with My Family that I think are severely underrated. And I would like to hear from you two. What is your favorite, or what is a movie that you enjoy that is an underrated movie of just the last 5 years, right? Just in recent times, something that just kind of flew under the radar.
CJ, I'm going to give you a point because I'm going to watch Fighting with My Family later tonight if I ever get some time.
Use the Plex, my good sir.
I own it. I don't need the Plex for that. I'll give you 3 for 1.
Ooh.
And I don't have any box office numbers to back this up.
I'll get it for you.
No, you won't, because it was a Netflix film.
Oh, well, then I won't.
And it's as recent as last year. Last year, and we might have briefly talked about this. Last year, there was a trilogy of movies called Fear Street dropped on Netflix. Horror anthology series, not anthology, excuse me, but a horror trilogy. Started with Fear Street 1994. Then the next week they dropped Fear Street 1978. Then they dropped Fear Street 1666, I think. And the concept was based on an R.L. Stein book about this town that is cursed, and we're kind of following it. And the curse is essentially randomly turning people into slasher villains. Guy walking around with a knife or an axe and taking out people at a summer camp, things like that, right? Really, really interesting film. It was way better than I expected it to be. And I don't ever hear anybody talking about it. I think for the weeks or like the month that it was like dropping, people talked about it, and anybody who saw it really liked it. But then after that, much like anything else that Netflix does, it just disappears like a fart in the wind, and no one's talked about it since. I thought this was probably one of the best set of horror films I've seen in a very long time. It was totally original. And, especially the 1994 film, like it just oozed the 90s, right down to all the needle drops and the music and everything. Like, it was very well done, and extremely enjoyable. I will warn you, if you do not like blood or guts and slashers, this is not the film for you. It's very bloody, but it was so fun. It was very cool. I highly enjoyed it. I think that was pretty unsung for the past year.
Are we talking Tarantino bloody or James Gunn super bloody?
I'd say it's a little bit in between. The kills that are in it are inventive. That's the thing. That's the thing that you
Okay.
watch that's what you watch a slasher film for, right?
Right.
How's Jason going to kill the kids this time, right? There is a kill in a bread slicer, I will say. Like, it's that level of gory. But like once the gore's done, like you get it for a brief snippet, and then you get a break, and then you get it for a brief snippet. That's the way these slasher films work.
Gillian Jacobs, Sadie Sink. Okay, there's some people I know.
Yeah, Sadie Sink from Stranger Things. She is in the second film in 1978. She's also in the third one, 1666.
Flows backwards. Why does it flow backwards? Why is it present tense in quotes, right? Then
it's a little misleading the way it's titled. It flows backwards. And I'll tell you why. Because the last film, 1666, only about half of it takes place in 1666.
Oh, okay.
Starts in 1994. Someone is caught up in this whole thing, essentially kind of marked for death, trying to figure out how to get out of it. So they start trying to research into this witch's curse. How do we break the witch's curse? That causes them to talk to Gillian Jacobs, who was at a summer camp in 1978. Enter the second movie. Then they find out how this all started, which leads them back to 1666. And only about the first half of that movie is 1666, because then it ends in 1994 when they figure everything out. So that's why it's told backwards. I mean, I guess you could say Tarantino in that regard when you put all three movies together. I highly enjoyed it. I thought it was great.
Can I stretch your 5 years a little?
Yeah, absolutely.
5 years
right.
and 3 months ago.
No, 2016. I gotta go back to 2016.
That's fine.
Hell or High Water. written. It's a Taylor Sheridan movie. He did Sicario, and he was Assistant Chief Hale in Sons of Anarchy. But he's a really, really fantastic like writer director. So Taylor Sheridan did that among other things, but that's one of the most underrated movies I've seen in a long time. My favorite movie of the year in 2018, American Assassin, incredibly underrated movie, and The Power of the Dog, which released last year on Netflix. And I think is very under the maybe
Oscar nominated.
I'm not.
Right?
Yeah, it was Oscar.
Well, okay, listen, I don't know anybody who has watched it.
That is yes. That
except
that
for
part I
maybe the
believe.
Academy.
Yeah.
I watched it and I loved it. I'll say I'm also like a ridiculous fan of this kind of neo-Western genre. I absolutely love it. If you make anything in that fun, like the Jordan Peele, his latest movie, Nope, is basically a neo-Western sci-fi. It's so good. But so, the Power of the Dog, Hell or High Water, you must see Hell or High Water if you haven't yet. I mean, just Chris Pine, Ben Foster, Jeff Bridges, the movie's spectacular. Taylor Sheridan does a great job. And American Assassin, I can't say enough great things about that.
American Assassin, that was something you turned nuts on too, right? Because you would not stop talking about it. I was like, fine, I'll watch the thing with the Maze Runner kid. And then I watched it, I was like, yeah, this guy's good. All right, cool.
Right.
Yep. Sorry I said no to this movie. And I remember Hell or High Water was very popular when we were all doing the Fantasy Movie League. A few years ago, we had to run a movie theater, and I was like, I'll put this on one screen. Nope, I should have put it on all the screens. That was what was winning the month.
But you still haven't watched it.
Haven't watched it.
It's spectacular.
It's on Netflix. I'll have to maybe put it on my list this week, because Nope was on my list to watch tonight, and maybe Hell or High Water is going to be it.
Listen,
Top
Laura,
Gun
I said to Laura, it was last night. I'm like, you want to watch a movie with me? She's like, yeah. Great, and I just stopped giving her choices, and I just put some. I put on Get Out, which is on the Plex.
Yep.
And she was like, I can see her going like, I'm not gonna like this. And the movie ended. She was like, holy shit, was that amazing?
Yep.
And that's all three of the Jordan Peele movies I absolutely love. So, just for anybody listening,
what about Keanu? Do you like Keanu? Can't.
That wasn't Jordan Peele directed though.
I'm just busting balls.
Yeah. So I'm talking about his written and directed.
His entry in all of this.
Yep.
Josh +1 for some solid recommendations. CJ +2 for giving us all access to the Plex. I definitely we've talked about Jordan Peele and how much I enjoy him, so I'm definitely looking forward to when I get to watch Nope.
Yeah, let me be clear about The Power of the Dog. It's in the same vein, in my opinion, as There Will Be Blood. It felt very much like There Will Be Blood.
How much milkshake talk was there?
Yeah, there wasn't any milkshake talk. I'm over here and you're over here, and my straw goes all the way over here.
That's actually really good. That was actually a really good impression too.
Plus 1 point. For
Please give him a point for that, Daniel Day-Lewis. That was good.
You deserve that point. Well done.
Yeah, so I don't know.
And look, you didn't have to sit in a trailer for 5 days with that air conditioning, yelling at people and saying, "I won't ever be my character in order to get it." Oh my god!
Drinking milkshakes all the time.
I haven't seen any of the Jane Campion. I didn't see In the Cut. I didn't see Portrait of a Lady or The Piano. But she did The Power of the Dog, written, directed, produced, and I'm on board. So.
Do you find when you watch movies like that if they give you a director that you go back and you check like their catalog and say, oh, maybe now I like this director?
That's the thing.
Is that one of the things? But
it is the kind of thing where like I watch a movie that I just decided I'm gonna check this out. There's another director that's like that. It's I
will say and while you're looking it up, Josh, it has to be like one of those films like, okay, clearly the director is what made this movie great.
Writer director.
Right.
Writer director. It's that kind of thing, right?
I'll give you an example. Fighting with My Family, right? As great as that film is, that movie is great because Florence Pugh. I don't know if the director is the reason that movie
Stephen
is
Merchant
great.
was the director, I think.
Right,
Yeah.
but
And writer. Now I have to look it up.
my point still stands.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in this case, Taylor Sheridan, after watching Sicario and how much I love Sicario, basically anything he does, I will watch. Hell or High Water, and I believe Wind River. Sorry.
I was gonna say Virgin River is the romantic soap opera on Netflix.
The Elizabeth
which
Olsen,
I-
Jeremy Renner movie, right? This is what you're talking about?
Which I also absolutely love.
I've heard very good.
Bone Tomahawk it was written and directed by S. Craig Zahler. He also did Brawl in Cell Block 99, Dragged Across Concrete. These are not for everybody movies.
Right.
But I like them very much. So it's that kind of thing. And yes, Taylor Sheridan for me is very much that way. I'm not sure if I have obviously the Coen brothers, but they're huge names, and I'm not going huge names. So I don't know if
I found that where I watch a movie, I was like, I actually like this movie. I didn't think I would, or I haven't watched this movie ever. And then I look at it, a director, I'm like, oh, okay. And then I go watch another one of their movies. I'm like, oh, I like this too. And then I watch another movie, I'm like, oh, okay, I like this director. Oh, okay. I accidentally fall into, I will now like 5 movies by default because I happen to like this director. So I like when I find that sometimes. And then I'm like, all right, let me go look at their other projects and see what I can pull out.
All right. Well, CJ, again, thank you. Solid conversation. Veered off a little bit. That's okay. We love it. So I will end with my mediocre topic if you gentlemen are ready.
Go for it.
So I've actually been holding on to this topic for a couple weeks now. So I'm going to share my story and then I'll present the question for you guys. I think we've all had some diverse experience with social apps, we'll put them in, right? We were all there when Facebook became a thing. CJ and I believe we were in college when it was just for college kids, right?
I was in high school.
Okay. I was in college. We meandered over to Twitter. We've had Instagram, Imgur, Reddit. We've all been there, right? We all either still use these things or dabbled for a while, don't really use them anymore. For the most part, I can pinpoint the moment that something, a social media software, let's say, had me nope the F out. For example, when Facebook opened up to everybody who, could express their terrible opinions online over a certain age, and it stopped being about connecting with your high school friends, that was I don't use my Facebook anymore, right? That was the day I was like, nope, I'm good, right? I think for Twitter, maybe when they increased to 240 characters, I was like, nope, I'm good, right? I recently had this experience with our latest obsession of TikTok, where I find myself not using TikTok as much recently. And I can pinpoint it back to one moment, and it's not the ads, and it's not the 3-minute videos or even the 10-minute videos, which I have now finally come across, which I'm still not a huge fan of. But it was a specific ad. It was an ad for the movie Bullet Train, a movie that I wanted to see. But they did this ad on TikTok, and it was like that SNL sketch with Steve Buscemi's with the tie-dye and the skateboards, like, oh, hello, my fellow youths, like, it was like, do the Bullet Train challenge. And they had Aaron Taylor Johnson and Joey King doing something. I don't know what the challenge was. They were just dancing or something like that. And I'm like, I watched this ad and I legitimately like, oh shit, I'm going to have to stop using TikTok, aren't I? Because more and more things and people and companies, more importantly, are going to do stuff like this. And it just makes me full on cringe, right? So I have descaled my TikTok usage. I will say, Corn Kid is bringing me back.
Corn.
It's corn.
It's got the juice.
It's got the juice. I love it. I tried it with butter and everything changed.
You know the reason that song is so good, right? It's the same guy who did Hide Your Wife, Hide Your Kids, right? It's just a prolific creator. Yeah.
Right. My point is, So hopefully something new replaces it, because I that's kind of stuff, I hate that kind of stuff. And it causes me to kind of start descaling my usage of this. So I'm curious, what's your breaking point? When it comes to these kinds of technologies and these softwares, what is something that happens or you see that makes you say, I'm doing this thing too much, or I'm on this thing too much and I need to stop?
I have those moments when it comes to some of the technology with it. So, for example, the breaking point for Facebook for me was when they were like, we're going to start doing facial recognition on every single photograph. And if you're tagged, even if you're not tagged in it, we're going to scan it and say, hey, this is you, right? And we're going to have all that. And I'm just like, okay, good for you, but like, what do I get from this? Like, I get to be seen in the background of a picture that I didn't know I was in.
You get to know that you were in a picture.
I was just like,
you were there, CJ. You were there.
I didn't. Right. That wasn't a thing that was missing.
You
right?
were at Jamie's bat mitzvah. Don't you understand?
There were a couple photos, right, from when I was in college, where it's just like, this is you, right? And I'm like, first off, I don't know where the fuck this photo is from. That is not me. And if you're trying to say that's me and you tag that's me and that person's doing that thing, no. I held off on TikTok for a long time because of that stuff. I don't have a problem with it being socially stupid. That's fine. I'm socially stupid, so I'm okay with it not being cool to be on Facebook. I have a problem when like back-end tech is happening, and when they went all meta, and hell, even Instagram, when they bought Instagram and got rid of the they put an algorithmic feed on there instead of just a timeline feed, and like, you can't ever get back, and we're gonna flood it with ads. I'm like, I came here, just like you said, Brian, with Facebook, I came here to look at pictures of the people that I want to look at pictures of. I don't need you to feed me t-shirts. I don't need you to say, well, here's reels of this and that. Like, I came here to follow 13 people and look at their photos, and it's all I wanted to do. Please leave, right? I don't care if people want if people want to come onto TikTok and be like, so do the bullet train challenge, because no one's fucking doing it. So it's just a really bad social media campaign, right? But for me, it's the back end stuff.
I will add to what you said there, right, about the algorithm, the algorithmic. You know what? Plus 1 point for using a word I can't pronounce.
Algorithmic. There you go. I get a point though. Yay.
Kind of approach there of what really started really upsetting me. It's about Instagram and it's about Facebook now too. Well, not now, for a while now. If I follow 30 people, it used to be I could go down my timeline and it was a timeline. Anything that was the most recent was up at top, and I could like scroll through and be like, oh, CJ had a jelly donut today. Isn't that nice? And like, oh, Josh did this like an hour and a half ago. And now it's not that anymore. And now it shoves things up top that they think is going to be most relevant to you. So CJ had a jelly donut 6 days ago, but Josh had a jelly donut 2 hours ago. Why is your post above his? It's ridiculous, right? I can't stand that. So plus 1 point for that as well. So you're going to get 2 points.
I'll do something to help you with YouTube, because YouTube is terrible with this. They're like, listen, say what we want about TikTok. Their TikTok algorithm of what do you like and who are you is freaking like spot on. Like, once you start to give it the data, it's like, we got you, man. We know what you want. We got you, right? I'll feed you, baby bird. Don't worry. YouTube's is terrible. And the trending page is terrible.
I don't ever have an issue with YouTube.
See, I turned off the search history, my watch history and my search history on YouTube, and just said, I only want to see the things I've subscribed to. And life has been way better.
See,
giving me way more relevant to what I'm looking for.
So what I do is I just go down into my subscriptions tab anyway. And then all the stuff that I subscribe to is right there. And I just watch it from there.
So turn off the other stuff.
Every once in a while, they'll pop up something that I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But not a ton.
I'm curious to hear
what
Josh.
About you?
Oh yeah, there we go. Great minds.
I stopped the Facebook thing. I stopped doing anything with Facebook when cancel culture became a thing. So like
2015, yeah.
No, like the 2018, 2019 is when it became like a real problem. And here, the thing is this, man. There's too large a percentage of the population who is too stupid to know they're stupid.
Yeah.
And then also an even larger, to the tune of like, I'd say triple percentage of the population that is smart enough to really weaponize their incompetence at you. And they are the ones who are using social media. So I disengage completely. I don't view TikTok as social media because I'm not a content creator and I don't interact with anyone on there. So like my For You page is genuinely entertaining for me. It is filled with stuff I want to see and really nothing that I don't. I hear Laura scrolling and she's stopping on these videos and I'm like, how are you still watching this? She was like, I don't know. We keep serving up stuff like this. I'm like, then you're doing it wrong.
Say they're not interested. That thing knows it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it gets it.
And listen, YouTube, I'm still really not aware that YouTube has kind of a For You page, because my entire interaction with YouTube consists of the search box and nothing else.
There's a lot of great content on YouTube. And here's the thing, and that's where I think YouTube and TikTok are different from Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. I don't view them as social. I view them as content creation machines for my entertainment. I go there to watch a bunch of videos on YouTube. I go there to watch, like, I follow specific people who do like comic book things, cosplay
requires
things,
no input
things.
from me whatsoever.
I'm not friends with these people, right?
No, TikTok is like a streaming service for
Exactly.
me. You know what I mean? It is only what I want to see and not at all what I don't. And like that is, people are like, oh, I tagged you in this or I did. I'm like, I'm not.
I share videos all the time.
I sent you a Facebook message. I'm like, I don't even have the app. Like,
Yep, I don't have the app either.
I don't
the
know.
only reason I still have the account up is because of this thing. I can't have our presence if I don't have the Facebook page.
Right. There are people I'm sure I wouldn't be able to get a hold of otherwise. I know that. So like I still have an account.
Okay, but those people being out of my life.
But like I don't.
Some of those people are listening right now.
CJ, I don't. Yeah, like I don't. There are people that there's no way they'd be able to get a hold of me other than that. Because they're never going to have my phone number. And if they did, I wouldn't have theirs. And that's okay. But they should still be able to get a hold of me if they need to. So like, that's the account's there for that. And like, I do from time to time want to see pictures of people that I don't live anywhere near and wouldn't otherwise, communicate with. I had a roommate, 2 decades ago that I love dearly. And I love her children, and I want to see them, every so often. But we don't text. We're not texters. We don't do that, right? So Facebook and she tags me every so often, and I'll get an email that says, this person tagged you, and I'll look, and I'll go, oh, look at that, like, this person's all grown up, that kind of stuff. But like, I do not want to read it. I don't want to hear your opinion about anything. I just don't care about, and it is like truly weaponized incompetence coming at you 24/7 on these social media networks. And nope, not at all.
I would love, and Brian, I know this isn't your again, tangent of it, but like, hey, I would love just something to replace Instagram, right? Give me just something else that let me view photos. And if you ever look up, what are alternatives to that? It's like
Instagram's just there for more risque content than TikTok will allow.
I guess so. And 2 weeks.
No, that's all it is.
2 weeks behind, content too. Like, hey, the corn thing that we talked about,
which is why everybody links their Instagram.
Right, we'll be on
TikTok.
Instagram Reels in about 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks, all your Facebook friends will finally get corn.
This TikTok got shut down because of whatever they call it, like hate speech. It's not right. This got taken down because of hate speech. So check out my Instagram for it.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah,
and that's what I'll do.
But
we follow two different things because the things that get taken down is like, oh, this cosplay was too risque.
No, it's hate speech from cosplay or from.
Oh no! It's people saying I get reported for hate speech I'm not actually hate speeching, but people hate me, so they call me hate speech. So because TikTok gets the middle finger, go over to my Instagram and you can see my videos.
I'm certainly not saying that this person was participating in hate speech. I'm saying that TikTok said
this is
whatever they said was hate speech when it wasn't at all.
Right.
Or a comedian told a joke from a child's perspective and they got taken down for child endangerment.
Right.
He is a comedian that plays his own son. He doesn't have kids, and his stuff gets taken down because someone reported him, and these are the idiots that get filtered out of my feed.
That's what I'm saying. I would love to get first off, anything that has meta. So here's like, for instance, Brian, of why I won't use some things. I would love to get VR, right? I would love to do some VR. I think it'd be fun to start playing with that technology. But the one that is both cost effective and also pretty well developed, right? Because it's got to be those two things. It's got to be developed and cost effective. Is what is it? Quest? Is that what it's called now? I forget what the hell they used to be. Oculus, right?
Right.
But now it's Meta, and I need to have a Meta account in order to do it. Fuck that. I'm not doing it, right? Same thing with Instagram. I really want to cut that and Facebook out of my life. I would love to just have that kind of nerd page up on Facebook without me being attached to it in any way, shape, or form. But until someone develops a alternative to it, I'm stuck with it. And that's kind of why TikTok is now the thing I use the most, because of the fact that, just like Brian and Josh say, I don't have to make content. Sometimes I do for fun. I don't have to. I can just enjoy it and treat it like a streaming service, like Quibi should have been. And, I can actually like that, but I would love to see some replacements. So unless someone's got some seed money that we could start something up, I'm stuck with what I've got, and the world is going to hell.
CJ +1 for the Quibi reference. Josh +1 for the reference to incompetent people, because you are a very strong point there, and I like it. All right, I think that's a good enough place to stop. So with that, I'm going to have my associate here tabulate some points. Can you...
Maxwell's got his abacus out. Let me get the abacus.
We're going to learn addition very early. Are you ready? All right. So, are you sure about these numbers? They're correct? All right, good. As hard as I tried to not be unbiased and to give this win to Josh had 8 points. CJ got 9.
How did this? It is the Quibi. The Quibi one put it over.
It's the Quibi reference. The Quibi reference, which for some reason showed up in my recently added folder again for some reason.
Oh.
So I was just thinking about it. You're very timely, sir. Congratulations, CJ. You get to host next week.
Well done.
Alrighty. All right. And with that, I want to say to all of you listeners, thank you so much for listening. If you have anything you'd like to add to any of these topics, any thoughts of your own, maybe you have an underrated film that you want to suggest to us. Maybe you have a thoughts about social media and why you nope the heck out of Facebook as well. Please let us know. Let us know on Facebook. Why not?
I was about to say, ironically enough, let us know on Facebook.
Use the Facebook. You know what? We got to dust the cobwebs off of it anyway.
Actually, just on a related note, if you actually do want to leave us a comment and not use the social media site, check our show notes. Built into our show notes, there's the ability to ask us a question right from our website there. So you can check our show notes and ask us things directly.
But until then, thank you all for making us your drive to the McDonald's, your cleaning the house, your walk around the neighborhood, whatever we are to you. Thank you for making us that. And we will see you all next week.
Well, welcome to the club, 'cause you are that kind of nerd.
Hey, listener, since you made it all the way to the end of this episode, I just want to let you in a little something. Over the last 2 weeks, I was a little slow on getting the podcast episodes out. Just had some stuff going on. But after listening to this week's episode, I figured I should make it up to you. You should get something for my laziness and you being impacted by it. So based off the fact that we talked about Fighting With My Family being an underappreciated movie, and Brian mentioned that we had talked about it before, it's time to release our Patreon exclusive spoiler cast of Fighting With My Family. This is a movie that I was obviously very passionately in love with. So I figured, why not let you hear our thoughts about it without having to pay us a nickel? And as a thank you for your understanding that I've been human and a little slow on getting the shows out. But we really appreciate you listening to it, and stay tuned for the feed tomorrow when we'll be dropping this episode. So thank you so much. Talk to you later.